Joining us on the Cyber Couch today is Dr. Tony Lake. He is the Superintendent of Schools at Lindbergh School District, and all you guys know, we love our school district, we love our community, and I wanted you to get to know him a little bit. And obviously there's a whole lot going on that he's having to deal with like nobody's ever had to deal with before, like all of us. And so I wanted to have some time to converse with that so we know how to pray for leaders in our community. But first of all, Dr. Lake, thanks for joining us. That's number one. Number two, 2 years in, I think 2 years in, am I right? Does it feel like five?
Yes, you're right. It's two.
2 years in. What have you learned about the Lindbergh community and about living in Missouri? Because you're kind of a Kansas guy.
So first, before I jump into that, I just want to say, Harry, thanks for having me on today and giving me this opportunity to talk to our families that live in our school district and attend your congregation. So just thank you for this opportunity. So, what I would say about our Lindbergh community, it is, and I've said this many times publicly, it has exceeded my expectations. I knew this was a very special place, tight knit, very proud, Lindbergh. I say it all the time. People wear the fact they want to tell you that they went to Lindbergh High School in about the first 30 seconds of a conversation. And so that's what I love about it. My wife and I are extremely happy. For those that don't know, my wife was born and raised in Kansas City, and her family is still there. And she was willing to go on this journey and this adventure with me once we kicked all of our kids out of the house and got them off doing what they were doing. So, we empty nested it and are very excited to be a part of this community and really, really enjoyed it.
So let's talk super positive first, because you like all of us, there's a whole lot going on that isn't super positive that we're having to bounce through. But you guys have begun the work on rebuilding, refashioning the high school. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's very, very exciting. We actually saw some progress about 3 weeks ago. They took down our math building on our campus as part of what we're referring to in this project is there's a 3-phase bidding process. So that was bid package 1, which was a little bit smaller bid package. It was to demo some of the buildings that needed to be demoed, and then build what we call the central utility building. So now we'll have a plant where all of our utilities are housed. And so that's underway. And then we just awarded bid package 2, which is the bulk of that work, which is the construction of the new 3-story building, plus the renovation of the spaces that we're going to be doing. And that bid, the contract is actually going to the board Tuesday night, but we awarded that bid at the end of June to BSI, which is a local here in St. Louis. So we're excited about partnering with them. And, we're just really excited. We just feel like that this is something that our entire community can be really proud of and get lots of use out of it. That's what we hope is that, taxpayers will see this as a benefit, and lots of community functions. We have the new field there that we want to see and have outside organizations using as well. So we just really want, this to be something that the community can really rally around and be proud of.
I was fascinated by graduation. I watched the whole thing on Facebook or wherever it was, and it had to be Facebook. And I just stumbled into it. It was a Friday night, and I went, what on earth? And I watched the whole stinking thing. Whose brainchild? How did that all come about?
That came about with that organization there. They started saying, hey, we can make our space available. The Rockwood School District went first, jumped off that cliff for us to see what it was going to be like. So we were holding out, hoping to be able to do it at our normal arena at Shavitz, and we had worked with them, really planning on how to social distance, how to do all that, had a lot of detail, and then their president pulled the plug on it. So we immediately jumped to that venue as quick as we could because we felt like that was our best option. We did explore doing it in our own stadium, but we felt like we wouldn't be able to get the capacity that we needed. It had been kind of a fun way to show off the new field and the scoreboard and all of that as well, but we just didn't feel like we could do it. But we did explore that, and we've had comments, hey, this is great, can we do this every year? It's kind of like going to being from Kansas City, like going to a Chiefs game and tailgating. So it was fun. And the Rockwood superintendent, when I visited with him, Mark Miles, he had said he'd gotten some emails from some families that said, "Hey, I got a younger one going to graduate in 3 years. You think we can do this again?" It was a lot of fun. So it was a positive, out of a really, really tough situation for our kids. And we, our hearts just go out to our seniors, they were just troopers through the whole thing, and they were just amazing, and their resiliency and all of that is going to serve them so well in the future when whatever it is they choose to do. They've had to really overcome a lot, and we're super proud of them, and their character really, really shined during this time.
I particularly like the one guy that did the flip on stage. That was fun too. So
that was awesome. Well, and we the feedback we got too was it wasn't stuffy. It was fun. The kids were having fun. As soon as they walked off stage, because it was so hot, they're ripping off their gowns, sitting there, and shorts and t-shirts. And so, you know what, we really wanted them just to be comfortable and be about them. And so hopefully we've gotten positive feedback from it for sure.
A year and a half ago, whenever it was, I was part of a committee with you guys where you were kind of coming up with a 5-year plan and setting some goals and all of that. That whole process, were you happy? You have to say yes. That's a bad way to ask the question. Were you? Did that turn out kind of like you thought it was going to? And tell me just about that process and what you think you gleaned, what you learned.
Yeah. So what I would say is yes. There wasn't anything in there that was really surprising to us. Number one, the quality of education has got to be priority, and that came out loud and clear. And then just, making sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our kids was really came out through there, and just that partnership with our community. And I hope the community feels like we are doing a good job of partnering with them and listening to them and engaging them in our work, in our conversation. We've really tried to make ourselves really transparent over the last 2 years, and making sure people, you've heard me talk before, Harry, about leading with the why. Why are we doing this? May not always agree with it, but if they understand your rationale, your thinking, your why, they may not support it 100%, but at least they have a understanding of where you're going and why that's happening. So many times I think organizations get themselves in trouble when they jump right to what we're going to do. And even with this reentry task force that we've been challenged with to do, we've led with why. Why are we doing this? And been very clear in our weekly communications of our why. And now we're going to get into the what on July 20th when we release it. So I think I'm going to go on vacation the next week. So.
Well, and that leads me to the next thing. So coronavirus has disrupted every facet of life.
Yeah.
And you guys are tasked with that idea of how do we get back? How do we get kids in the classroom, and how do we educate them and all of that? And so you talked about a task force, a reentry task force. Tell us a little bit about the process that you guys have walked through.
Sure, absolutely. So like we approach our overall educational experience for our families is we want flexibility for our families. We want choice for our families. And in this reentry plan, it's no different. We're trying to give parents some options of, here are the safety measures that you put in place. Here's how we've done what we can do. Here's an in-person option. And if you're not comfortable with that, then here is this more robust virtual option. And I think, parents need to understand, and I've said this publicly several times, is online learning in the spring was by invitation because we had no choice.
Right.
It will not be, if you choose the virtual, it will not be by invitation. It will be very robust, very rigorous, very high quality, like you would get in our in-person experience. And so we've really been able to try that out this summer. We've done a virtual summer school with over 500 kids, and our feedback has been really positive with those changes that we learned from the spring. And so what we did is we back to this whole idea of transparency, we tasked our community. And so we've had about 60 some people working with us over the summer, meeting weekly from I believe it was the Wednesday after Memorial Day, I believe it was our first meeting. And what we've done is we've divided into 5 working groups. So it wasn't all 60 trying to work on one topic at the same time, never get anything done. So we kind of broke it out to about 10 to 12 people per working group. And the consistency of that entire group is students, parents, community folks, medical professionals, our administrators. So it's a well-balanced approach and well-represented voices. Teachers, we had 10 to 12 teachers in there, our NEA president involved with that, our teachers union, because they have to be right there with us. We have to be on the same page, and we have to communicate, and we have to be supportive of one another if we're going to pull this off. And so, the work to see it come out has been truly amazing. It's like a lot of us during COVID, I think sometimes we felt like we were drinking out of a fire hose. We couldn't catch our breath at times. And even today, as I sit and have conversation with staff, I feel, over the weekend, I felt pretty good about it. But when we start to talk about releasing things on the 20th, there's still, we still have work to do. And, and what I could say to our community about this is, what we know today could look different 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. And so just planning and preparing for contingencies. Yes, we're going to start with in-person and virtual, but we're going to have to pivot at some point into another option, a contingency option, and just being planned and prepared. And we're going to try to give our parents as much resources and information as we can to help them make really good decisions. But there's going to be a lot of details. We're going to have some a nice one-pager kind of document that comes out that really highlights the big bucket areas of how we're doing transportation, kind of how are we feeding kids? What does that look like? And then there's going to be a very large document that has the weeds to it. And then we're going to host meetings between now and August 24th for our families with our building principals to ask specific questions about their building and what does that look like, because each of our campuses are different. And we've done what we've called space mining, because, the two things that came out of our survey that were most important to our parents was you can reduce class sizes and do your best to social distance. We're going to be comfortable. About close to 75% of our family said if you do your best to social distance, and it was closer maybe to 80%, if you can reduce class sizes, then I'm going to feel fairly comfortable. Plus, I want to see how you're cleaning, how you're doing things. But there's a lot of things that we've come accustomed to in our daily or in our student experience that it's not going to be able to happen. Things like field trips and things like that are just, as of now, we're kind of in this time frame of we're going to reevaluate in January. We hope things are, but it's going to be going into the height of flu season and all of that. So we're looking at a year of really trying to be as agile and flexible as we possibly can.
So on the 20th of July, you're going to tell people, here's the plan. The tentative start date, August 24. Maybe it's not tentative, but I'm just saying, as as you're saying, everything's fluid. Yes. And then August 24th, school starts. And we're trying to be flexible as everything plays out, because as we know all over the nation, every time anything opens up at all, now we have increase of cases or whatever. And you guys have virtually an impossible job. Well, so we'll be praying for you guys.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the prayers for sure. So we, it's like in our communication that's going to go out to our families is, and, we want to be honest and open with them is that, these safety measures and precautions, it's not going to eliminate COVID. It's just going to mitigate it. And how can we respond to it quickly so it doesn't spread in a building and require us to shut down for a couple of weeks and things like that. So, so far we've opened up our early childhood center back at the beginning of July, and some of the protocols that you will see in our plan that'll go out on the 20th are being implemented there. And we've had, knock on wood here, we've had some really good couple weeks. We've also opened up athletic workouts as well, and some extracurricular kinds of things in group. And it's, it's really about, kind of cohorting kids in groups and doing your best to minimize the number of contacts throughout the day. So when we do have to contact trace, we can do that, and we can do it, in a speedy manner, and hopefully, get the response that we need and not let it overtake our building or our district.
So you already answered me about sports and extracurriculars. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Several weeks ago, you and I didn't talk to you that day, but you and I were on a march down Sappington.
Yes.
A lot of racial, social unrest going on in our nation and the nations actually. And we were in that march, and I was blown away by how many people came out. And and so what was the value of that, do you think, for the community? Because
Yeah. So
I was stunned at how many people came.
yeah. So I can tell you from the lens of our school district and kind of what we've done. We started this conversation right when I got here, basically 2 years ago. We started some work last spring. We've partnered with a group called Educational Equity Consultants that lives in that space and really helps build capacities of organizations. So they've done all of our cabinet level folks and building leadership have done that. So, we have a plan that says, we need to build the capacity for people to have this conversation, because what happens sometimes in this arena, that people aren't equipped to have it and it doesn't go well. And it's a really, really important topic. And so from the lens for us as an organization, to make sure that every person that works here, goes to school here, feels like they have a seat at the table and doing things. We started an equity committee last year that's a standing working committee with teachers and parents. We're actually getting ready to institute a new position at every building level. Every building in our school district has a building leadership team, which is a group of teachers that work with those building principals on making decisions and partnerships and just making sure that things flow the way they need to. Well, a new position on that leadership team is somebody that will have an equity lens, that will be specifically trained. And when we make decisions, are we making this for the best interest of all kids and all personnel within our school district, and making sure that we do, because a lot of things we will do at times and it's unintentional, and it comes across that way. And so, we're doing a book study right now called Unconscious Bias in School, and our leadership team is reading that this summer. And it's a very powerful book. So, just building the capacity and being comfortable in that conversation, I think, is really critical. And I think people are hungry for that based on the community turnout that you and I saw that day here. And so we've just recently released our work around equity for our school community. It's on our website. You can find that under, I believe it's under programs tab there, services and programs, and it kind of highlights our work that we're doing. So, we really understand the importance of that and want to have that conversation and be a part of it from an organizational standpoint, that, we need to be as accepting and showing empathy and grace to anyone and everyone that works in our organization and attends school within our organization.
You're an education system, and so the atmosphere is important, but then what you teach is important. And at that March, they were talking about teaching certain kinds of things. Is there a curriculum kind of adjustment that comes as well?
Well, I can talk to you about two specific things that we've done so far to this point. But yes, we're getting ready to do two things that we've done so far. One, we've done an audit of all of our libraries. So we've gone through and said, does our library have materials that represents our student population? And are there books and are there things like mirrors? So can I see myself in those books? And then our teachers have really done an amazing job of doing that with their own classroom libraries. So, we have an educational foundation here that gives teacher grants. And I would say roughly 80% of those grants, if not more, were to help boost those classroom libraries to make sure books are representative of our students and that are walking through our door each and every day. And then every time we do a curriculum audit, I think our next one is English language arts, and we're in the process of doing that right now. We'll have that lens, and how do we bring that into the conversation? So yes, very important that we do that, and understanding the history and decisions that were made to help us move forward as a school community, as a community as large, and then as a country.
Yeah, so critical. I appreciate, all the hard work you guys are doing on that. Final two things. Brag a little bit about Lindbergh. What I mean is academics, just what is really being achieved. I was listening, at the graduation, and they said some enormous amount of dollars of scholarship your kids had are taken home from colleges and so forth. And this many people are going into the military and so forth. Just brag on the district a little bit, how things are going.
Yeah, well, it starts with our families at home. They send us an amazing kid to our schools. And then from there, we have amazing teachers that do amazing things with these kids and stretch them and grow them. What I would say, what I would say are probably the thing that we're hanging our hat on the most is that, yes, our kids are going to perform academically. Our teachers are going to do great academic things with our kids, but it's about preparing them for life beyond school, not to do school well. And probably when you and I went to school, it was, how can I do school well? But there's, and people that have heard me talk in my listening and learning tour, this is not going to be a shock to them. We're going to prepare a generation of kids that are going to have anywhere between 5 and 6 careers and 17 and 18 different jobs within those careers. So that's a skill set. And so what I've been probably the most proud of is that acceptance from our teaching staff that, you're right. Yes, I can take my academic knowledge. This is the essentials that they need to learn, but how can I develop these skills? And we've talked about, collaboration is an important skill, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. Those 4, if you go look at the top 10 skills that workers will need in the future, all 4 of those show up in the top 10. And so, developing student experiences that not only prepare them what they need to know academically, but also a skill set to make them successful in life. And there is that balance. It can't be all of one or all the other. There has to be that balance. And I feel like we are moving in that direction through, innovation. And, what I would say too is that, we use a phrase around here a lot when I came in of absolutes and artifacts, and people have really bought into that in an organization, because how organizations get stale and they don't grow. It's the status quo. It's the biggest challenge, I think, not just in education, but I think in any organization, the status quo, we get comfortable. And so what I would say our proudest thing is that we every day, I can't say 100% certainty every employee comes here and challenges the status quo every day, but we come with a mindset of how can we get better each and every day, and how can we challenge the status quo to benefit our students, our staff, and our families as a whole.
So give me a couple of bullet points, because I am a church pastor here. How can the people that are going to watch this interview, how can they pray for Dr. Tony Lake and the school? Like just a few bullet points. Things, and we really this needs to happen.
Yeah, and I would say wisdom and guidance on just healthy, safe environments for our kids, that we make the best decisions around that, and that we keep that at the forefront of all of our decisions, and for our staff as well. There's a lot of anxiety with our teachers right now. So just, pray for them, and our staff as well, our support staff as well. There's a lot of anxiety right now as we get closer to that August date. So just helping and pray for clear communication for us, that we can communicate our message, and that we can help people be at peace coming back to school in August.
Well, listen, thanks for your time. You are in our prayers, and we love what you guys are doing. So proud to be a Lindbergh resident personally. And we just super enjoy what you guys are doing. So bless you guys. And however we can stand with you, we want to, and we hope we can.
Well, Harry, and I just want to say your friendship over the past 2 years has been awesome. So I just appreciate you. We got to meet right when I started, and just all that you do. So thank you, and thank you for allowing me to spend some time with your congregation today.
Appreciate it, my friend. We'll talk soon.
All right. See you, Harry.